Good afternoon. This is Dr. David back with the Fresh Start with Dr. David podcast. I hope everybody's been having a great week. I know everything's kind of been crazy lately with the weather and, all the stuff that's gone on with all these flights and the airlines. And everything is just kind of in a crazy kind of state of flux. But hopefully, I have hope that we're in a state of recalibration, where we're in a state where we can look back, be introspective, without being retrospective, and kind of gain some insights and some clarities about some things that we can fix, which is what this podcast is all about. In other words, creating a fresh start, rebalancing, recalibrating, readjusting, rebooting, resetting, restarting, all of those things. And the way that I look at it, every single day, every minute, every day, every hour is an opportunity for you to reset, even if you only take a minute to do it. So with that, I'd like to welcome everybody back. If you haven't done so already, start getting ready for the fall harvest. I'm a strong believer in working with the energy of the seasons, as you know, if you've listened to prior podcast episodes. So the more you work with a season, the more likely you are to be energetic, to be in sync, to be in balance, and things like that. And as you may or may not know, fall is the season of harvest. And that's when you get back in return all the things that you've paid in throughout the rest of the year. So it's the time when you actually reap what you've sown. And so if you haven't already done so, start to set yourself up for reaping what you've sown and harvesting. And if you haven't done so already, definitely check out the past few episodes that I've done. I did an episode with our good friend Gary Scott about loss and grief and bereavement. As you know, he's an expert on that. You can follow him on Facebook, but definitely check that out. I also did a really, really great episode with another guest recently who's an expert on the topics of tapping into channels and energies. And that was really, really interesting. That wasn't something that I'd had really kind of thought about before. But she got into the notion of channeling into the energies of people who've done great things in the past, like in her case, Albert Einstein. And so definitely check out that episode. I think it's worth listening into. There are lots of things that are going around us that we may or may not be consciously aware of. And so I think it's just an opportunity to kind of think outside the box and make connections, mental connections with things that you may not have considered in the past. And on that note, I'm so excited about today's episode. This is with a guest that I've been wanting to have for a while. And the things that he's an expert in are a lot of the things that I've always had a big interest in, and a lot of the things that I've been curious about and been wanting to research, but haven't had a chance to do so. And with the technological and environmental changes that are going around us these days and that are, escalating and increasing incrementally, it's definitely something that you want to be informed about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce athleticism, human performance, an EMF expert, author, and founder, Mr. Justin Frandson. Welcome, Justin.
Dr. David, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I am so excited to have you. And you are in California, correct?
Yeah, Southern California, Orange County, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach area.
Nice. And how does that area work for you, like energetically and otherwise?
Oh, it's fantastic. We have a really healthy beach life where we're just outside in the sun and in the sand and in the water constantly.
Nice. I don't know if it has to do with astrological signs or what, but I know water and beach and things like that always kind of help me refresh and reset.
Well, there's a reason for that, and I think it'll be the topic of our conversation today. Is it feeds our soul, and our bodies are electric, and we pull those resonances from nature that help feed us.
Nice. We're jumping right in. I love it. So would you mind if I tell the audience just a little bit about you?
Go for it.
So Justin is an expert in unlocking the secrets of human performance. He's an expert performance coach. He's an expert in EMF. And as we talk, I'll explain, or he'll explain more about it, but EMF stands for electromagnetic fields, right? And he's also the founder of athleticism.com and EMF Rocks. Justin Frandson is a renowned athleticism performance coach and author. He specializes in nerve work and is the founder of athleticism.com and emfrocks.com. He's been working in the field of athletic performance for over 25 years. Justin is the author of Athleticism, Whole Body plus Whole Brain plus Performance, which delves into the connection between athletic performance and the environment around us. And as you should know, we are products of our environments, so we should be in sync with them. Justin became interested in the impact of environmental factors on athletic performance after noticing that many of his athletes were breaking down due to the effects of wearable technology. In response to that, he looked to nature for solutions to the man-made challenges that are caused by EMF. His grounding bags, which are sold at physicians' offices and clinics and practices across the country, are the leading natural answer for helping people coexist with electromagnetic fields. And with that, thanks so much for agreeing to be here, Justin. It's really an honor to have you.
Likewise, Dr. David.
So let's go back to what you alluded to. You alluded to the soul and energy, and the energy of us as it relates to the energy of the environment. Can you share a little bit with that of that with us?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lady named Eileen McCusick, and she has this incredible sound tuning fork healing system. And she can clear your energy field, your biofield with tuning forks. And
Wow.
huge following, but the way she describes our body is probably the most simplistic way that I found. She says that our bodies act like a body battery, and we get a negative charge from the Earth's resonance, and we pull those electrons from the Earth and the Schumann resonance, that healing pulse of the Earth, and that supports our electron transport chain to give us energy. So literally, you get energy by just being outside and having a picnic or being barefoot. She also says you get energy from the sun, the unpolarized light of the sun that distributes equal in every direction, because we're essentially a light body. We're a holograph of light where we communicate, our bodies, ourselves, our fascia communicates through light. And so when you can get fed by the sunlight, it feeds us as well. Dr. Zach Bush, who's a fellow MD of yours, will say we get the minerals from breathing in certain environments. So get your body into different environments, and the trees and forests and the beach. You get minerals from breathing the air, and then hopefully we get it from our food when we're sourcing clean, regenerative, biodynamic food that's not riddled with pesticides and herbicides. And the last component, Dr. Dave, the fifth component of how our body gets fed from nature is through the water. And the water, when we're drinking good water, it'll be mostly spring water, and it'll have a certain structure to it, and our bodies will be able to utilize that water because it has minerals and structure to it. So if anyone's missing any of those five elements, we're not going to feel so great. But when we go outside into nature, instantly our bodies are fed with nutrients in multiple ways. And that's what I alluded to by nature, and getting grounded by nature helps feed our soul.
Wow. I feel like I just got a lecture on the body. I mean, I totally, that's a lot to take in. And it sounds like you've synthesized a lot of brilliant and complicated topics in a way that people can easily understand. The topics, the things that you just mentioned, are those also mentioned in your book, Athleticism, Whole Body plus Whole Brain plus Performance?
Yes, yeah, we mentioned a little bit. When I wrote that book, it's mainly about human performance. And so it was in the midst of I finished it in the midst of the whole COVID thing, and I was feeling remiss if I didn't add what the pillars for health were to allow you to have the optimal performance and use our program for performance. So I do add a lot of that. And then I did write a second book called Grounded by Nature, which I haven't shared with you yet, but that's published this year. And that talks more about the obviously electromagnetic radiation and how to coexist with it.
Love it, love it. Yeah, no, I'm definitely am now curious about your second book, and I love the title, "Grounded by Nature." Is that it?
Yeah.
I love that because there's so much hidden meaning in that title because grounded is something that you can do in electrical environments. And nature is definitely the environment that we play in. So that makes so much sense. So let's jump right in because I have a huge interest in these topics. And like I said, I'm a little bit ignorant about a lot of them. And I'm going to depend on you heavily today to provide some expertise and some background knowledge about these things. Right. So the first one I want to jump into is probably the first one that I brought up. And then I'll just kind of go through the list and hopefully we'll have time to cover all of them. But one of the things that I like to do is kind of define terms. And I know that you're a performance expert and we hear that word all the time. Performance, especially when people talk about certain standardized tests or performance tests or performance evaluations and things like that. The word perform is in so many different arenas of our lives. Tell me basically how you define performance.
Performance literally goes back to being one with the infinite flow of the universe. And when you're in the proper rhythm, excuse me, of the universe, and when you're in the proper brainwave states that our bodies optimize, which is literally one with nature's resonance, that allows you to perform at those highest levels.
Nice. Nice. So it sounds like we kind of have a connection with the environment around us, and the strength of that connection, the better we're off. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I would say it in a way that not only do we have a connection with nature, we are literally one with nature and her resonance. And your environment can allow you to thrive, or if you're in a harsh environment, it could kill you instantly. So the environment plays a huge role on, how we really rev with nature. So if there's radiation, in your environment in a big way, you're gonna your body's gonna respond accordingly, adapt, and all that stuff. It's same as if there's marine life and then there's a huge oil spill, they're gonna pollute their environment. That marine life will adapt the best they can as well. So that's why I look at us being one with nature, and then how when there's environmental stressors, how they can impact us.
Love it. And that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense because those connections are there and certainly everybody kind of understands the concept how people feel like they're reinvigorated by going to the beach or by going to the ocean or by taking a nature walk or going hiking or even just spending time with animals or dogs or whatever it is or horses, equine therapy and things like that. So that totally makes sense how that kind of resets us. So let's jump into EMF. So I know a lot of people have heard those initials, that acronym EMF. Some people kind of have a sense of it or what it means and things like that. People certainly understand, or have a sense of cellular technology and, 1G, 2G, 3G, 5, 4G, and now we're up to, I guess, 5G. So tell us what electric magnetic fields are and how they affect us.
Definitely. Well, there are native electromagnetic fields, the ones that we're one with out in nature, and then there's non-native ones that are man-made waveforms. So every Western medical doctor, when they go and test you for a broken bone or whatever ailment, the modality that they're using is a waveform.
Yes.
Whether it's X-ray, CT scan, EG, whatever, they're all waveforms, right?
Right.
So that's because the framework of how we're designed is through waves, and they can read these things really easy.
Right.
So basically, the non-native waveforms are a little challenging for us because they're one-directional waveforms. They're when you get into the faster speeds, they call them ionized waveforms. They're
Okay.
polarizing for our body. So that's why you're only allowed to take in so much X-ray.
Okay.
It's not great for you. Now, but you get a great clean image because it's a one-directional waveform that they're scanning at a really fast speed of a wavelength.
Okay.
That's the same as electricity, dirty electricity, and wireless signals. Those are all one-directional waveforms, or they don't work. So that concept is totally different from how nature is designed and we're designed.
Okay.
We're designed off of waveforms that are unpolarized, that distribute equally in every direction. There's a name for that waveform. It's called a scalar wave.
Okay.
So every living resonance and being has a resonance, and that resonance is really the similar as nature's, where it's based on scalar waves that distribute equally in every direction. So how is nature omnidirectional? Well, if we look at the sun, it's not a laser dot where you can see the dot on one side of your hand and not
Right.
the other. Like, it refracts it. It distributes equally in every direction.
Yes.
Same as if, I'll give you three analogies. That's the first one. The second one is, if you're outside in nature, you're not getting grounded in one spot of the lawn and then you move 2 feet over to the right and then you're grounded.
Right.
It's a resonance off the entire Earth's surface
Right.
that you get grounded. And then the third analogy would be, this is one of my favorites. If I drop a pebble into a pond, Dr. David, why does the splash of the pond distribute equally in a circular direction in every direction, equally in a circle?
Because it's distributing energy, or it's interacting with 360 degrees.
Right, which essentially is not a one-directional waveform.
Right.
It's an unpolarized wave that
Right.
distributes equally in every direction. So that's a great analogy. You drop a pebble perpendicular into a pond, it's going to give the circular splash out equally in every direction. So it's not a straight line. It's not going to shoot in a straight line.
Right.
But all electricity has to be designed in straight lines. That's why you see cell tower panels facing every direction, because they can only broadcast it in straight lines.
Ah, wow. Did not know that. Did not know that. So, and I totally remember, I mean, in medical school, we learned a little bit about, the amount of radiation you can take and how radiation works and things like that. But actually, when I think about it, I learned more about electromagnetism and things like that, probably when I took physics and when I took biochemistry, but more specifically, when I took organic chemistry and we learned about technologies like NMR and things like that, ultrasound and stuff like that, where, you can scan an image or you get an image of a person or you're imaging things, x-rays and things like that. When it comes to electromagnetic fields, what kind of things should we be concerned about that can negatively impact us? I mean, is that just cellular phone technologies, or does it include, like, I don't know, microwaves? What all does that include?
Well, before I answer that question, because it's a loaded one,
Yeah,
well, I guess I'll answer it quickly. It's everything.
everything. That's the answer.
So, and the reason I hesitated on answering that is because I don't want people to get scared of using technology or
Right.
living in homes, because we're all essentially live in these homes. We call them homes with their electrical boxes.
Yes.
And then we're all essentially electricians now. We're walking around with routers in our hands almost
Yes.
all day long
True.
with the cell phones. And these routers have cellular, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
broadband spectrum, and GPS in them. They have 5 different types of bandwidth in them. Like, that's a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And all day long. We never had that 20 some years ago. Like we just didn't.
Yeah.
So it's very new to us. Now, the cool thing is there's this physics component to where we can convert a one directional waveform, these polarizing waveforms, into something that distributes equally in every direction. So we can coexist with this stuff. We got to do our best to establish usage protocols, proximity protocols, and then get outside into nature as much as we can. And then, obviously we'll get into the grounding bags, in our EMF rocks products a little later in the conversation, but that's a really great tool for you to have in your home. But what I want to go back to is this other point. There's a book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Frandson. Have you heard about that or read that one?
I have not, but I will now.
Well, Dr. David, this is a must read. It's a pretty heavy book. It'd be perfect for the brilliant minds of the MDs out there.
I don't know about that.
It's really well referenced, about 150 some page bibliography, and
Wow.
It's an authority on the history of electricity and life.
Wow. And that's by who?
By Arthur Furstenberg.
Arthur Furstenberg.
Yeah, it's called The Invisible Rainbow. And what it does is it goes back and it talks about the flu. And they called influenza the flu before 1889, before we introduced electricity in our homes. They called it that because the influenza was under the influence of the solar system, of the stars, of atmospheric pressure shifts, of solar flares. So when there were cosmic shifts in our electromagnetic blanket of an atmosphere, he correlates a lot of times people adapting where a lot of people got sick in all different regions at the same time.
Nice.
And not until we brought electricity into homes was the flu here to stay, and it became seasonal. And then every major electrification of our atmosphere, he correlates with rollouts of new radiation from man-made ones. So 1918 correlates with radio waves being rolled out. World War II radar, Spanish flu, or I'm sorry, Hong Kong flu were satellites. And then everyone knows the last several years what was broadcasted for the first time ever, 5G. So it's a really incredible book, sequencing and correlating. When you change and pollute our environment, our bodies are going to do what they can to adapt.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I know that, like, for instance, I try to look at everything with like a childlike curiosity. I really do. And I know, when you're a child, you learn that things run off of energy. That energy could either come from being directly plugged into an electrical socket or from it being powered by a battery that has energy that's been collected into a small space. And, as a child, you kind of learn that, you don't put your hand in the socket and you don't put your hand on the stove and you don't do all these things. And you understand, or you learn about the concept as you get older that, if you get struck by lightning, what can happen and things like this. But, you generally kind of learn a little bit about energy and electricity and electromagnetic waves and things like that, even though you don't necessarily think about it in those terms. I know myself, I didn't really understand or get a sense of the connection between the human body and electrical flow or electrical current or electromagnetic waves until I took physiology in medical school. And we used Guyton, the Guyton textbook, which is kind of like the authority on physiology. And we learned, or I learned, we all learned about basically how an EKG works, because your heart isn't just a muscular pump. It also acts like a battery. And that's what an EKG is based off of, the electromagnetism of the heart, which has a force and has directions and things like that. And so that was kind of the first time when we were studying the heart and physiology that I got a sense that certain parts of our body kind of act like batteries. And then I think the other time I kind of thought about it like that is when I'm a huge science fiction fan. So of course, when The Matrix came out and they talked about, humans being used by robots and computers as batteries, that made a lot of sense to me as well. But you made a really, really important point and I think a lot of people don't think about themselves like that. They think of themselves as, being organisms and being composed of cells. And most people know that we're 63 to 65, 66% water and those kind of things. But I know a lot of people probably don't get the concept or haven't thought about it, that they are kind of like a walking battery or magnet.
Yeah, we are electromagnetic beings, and we are comprised of we're light bodies comprised of water and energy and silica, essentially. So there's an incredible book called Tom Cowan. He's also one of your colleagues, MD Tom Cowan, Cowan, and he talks about the heart not being a pump. He's like, "What is a pump?" And he describes exactly the specs of a pump, and he's like, "The heart. Where does the heart or the body have those same specs? They don't. Just because it beats doesn't mean it's a pump. It's
Right.
electromagnetic and it's off of pressured systems. So we're electromagnetic beings and we operate through pressure, where our fascia, is basically the everything of the body, the communication of how everything connects. And I will go to say that the fascia is the extension of our biofield, our energy field that goes out about 6 to 8 feet, that connects with this, air around us, which the air, falling in the air part of our atmosphere, which is ether or plasma. Like we're connected in so many different ways through concepts and intangibles that aren't really articulated and properly in science. I feel that science, just me studying it, they've gotten it all wrong all these years.
No, I agree. I totally agree with that. And I know myself, I know my book, The Nutrient Diet, one of my books, The Nutrient Diet, there's a reason why the first chapter of that book starts with water, because it's such an important part in explaining us and how we work. And, another thing is just kind of, the concept, of how we act or behave or how we are electromagnetically. And I know every once in a while, I just get a sense or a feeling that there's just like too much energy, too much tension in a place. And I'm just like, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it, but I just need to get out of here. I also talk about that concept in my first self-improvement book, Sweet Potato Pie for the Spirit, Soul, and Psyche, because there's a chapter on sleep and how to fix sleep naturally. And one of the things that I advocate in that chapter is disconnecting from technology and from energy while you're trying to sleep.
Yes. Yes. Well, you touched on like several points, Dr. David, that I want to address with your audience. And
Yes.
the first one, I'll do it real quick. The thing that you feel is like, how do you feel? This is a big thing, because
Right.
I want everyone to get back into listening to their body and understanding how they feel. And how do you feel in different environments with different people? That's where these energies come into play. And that's a big part. Your intuition can really tell you, hey, this is not a great environment for me. This is dangerous. This doesn't feel right. Or, man, these people are so funny. I want to hang out with them and I want more of that in my life. And we got to get out of the meta universe, all technology telling you how you feel, how you slept, how many steps you take, when it's time to eat.
Right.
And stop that whole concept. Go back to connecting to God, getting grounded by nature, and knowing how you feel. That's one of the biggest things.
I totally agree with that. And I did an episode where I kind of talked about those things. And I believe is it season 3? I can't remember if it's season 3 or if it's season 2. But the title of that episode is Trust Your Body. It's Not Lying to You. And it's about ways to listen to your body and get in tune with your body. That way, when your body's trying to tell you something, you can trust it and you're not second guessing it. So let's jump into another topic that I'm really, really curious about, because every single time I've noticed this, at least since I would say at least since 3G. Since 3G technology's been out, I know every time they talk about coming up with a new technology or a further advancement, as they call it, in cellular technology, then there'll be some groups that come out and talk about the negative effects of it. And I certainly remember when they were talking about it with 5G, 4G, and 3G. I can't remember if they talked about it with 2G and 1G, but tell us a little bit about that G, when we went from, I guess at some point we weren't a G, I don't know, but how we gone from 1G to 5G and how these Gs affect us.
Well, they're generations of technology. That's what that means.
Okay.
Now, obviously, the higher the level, the more advanced in the technology. So, what we do is we measure it. We measure these things in a speed of the wavelength, just as I was saying before. So let me answer it in a way that everyone can understand. Everyone understands what a wave per second means.
Sure.
I mean, how many waves can pass per second?
Yeah.
So when we're sleeping, Dr. David, we have a delta and theta brainwave state, right? Where
Yes.
our brainwave states are really low and slow. They're 1 or below 1 to 8 hertz, and I convert that hertz to a wave per second. So when we're 1 or below 1 to 8 hertz or waves per second, that's the brainwave state. Now, when we're alert and awake, it's a lot faster. Maybe 3-4 times that.
Right.
But when we're sleeping, it's a really low and slow state. Now,
Right.
that is the same as the Schumann resonance, that healing pulse of the earth, and that's 7.83 hertz per waves per second. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
And when our athletes with athleticism are in the flow state, they're in an alpha brainwave state. Their brainwave states are 8 to about 13 hertz or waves per second. So that's when you're in the zone and you can't miss. You're in that flow state.
Right.
Now, let's measure this technology and see where it's at. So they measure it basically in megahertz,
Right.
and gigahertz.
Right.
Megahertz would be they measure it in millions of waves per second. Gigahertz are billions of waves per second. So if your Wi-Fi, the lowest bandwidth that it is 2.45 gigahertz. That it means that is 2.45 billion waves per second broadcasting of a one directional polarizing waveform in your environment or in your pocket, in your hand, that you're holding all the time.
Right.
And then you multiply that times all the different bandwidths that I said, the cellular, the Bluetooth,
Right.
the wire, all the other ones.
Radio.
Yeah.
Microwave. Yeah.
All those. And so that's what our bodies are dealing with now. The lowest bandwidth that destructures water is 2.45 gigahertz.
Okay.
So that's why people are saying us and our environment are being dehydrated from radiation, and it's because destructures our water. Our bodies don't know what to do with it when that water doesn't have proper structure. They can't utilize it as efficiently. So 5G 4G is 2.45 gigahertz. 5G is 60 to 90 gigahertz, 60 to 90 billion waves per second. When we sleep, rev and optimize at 1 or below 1 to 13 waves per second. So over 10-0 delta. Now, guess what telecom is allowed to turn this stuff up to?
I would have no idea on that one. I can't even guess.
300 gigahertz. That's where we'll get into the 6, 7Gs, all the other Gs up above 5G.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So literally, and you saw what this correlation with broadcasting 5G did with COVID. Like a lot of people got sick from that polluting of our environment. So the increase in these band waves is absolutely potentially devastating for the health of us and our planet.
Wow. Wow. I'm getting a true education today. So I'm going to jump into some of the curiosities that I have about some of this, if that's okay. So these G's and all these waves and all these things that are tapping into our energy and tapping into our bodies and our environment and our existence, My guess is for the most part, they probably have a negative influence. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, that's what we're alluding to, and I know where you're going with this. Where are the effects of it? Yes.
So you totally anticipated where I was going. So when we look at like us as a species, humans, and I mean, I obviously I could jump into other species, but I think we have enough issues that I don't have to jump to any other species. But when you look at us and you look at like what's going on with people, everybody seems to be obese these days, and everybody's stressed out, and everybody's having panic attacks, and everybody's depressed, and all these things, weight gain and all this kind of stuff. Do you attribute a lot of that to what's going on in our environment with these waves and just kind of the technology and how our bodies are affected by it?
Yes, Dr. David. Right now, I'll go on record as saying that electromagnetic radiation from electricity all the way up to 5G is the number one stressor on the body today.
And so, having said that, how, since cellular technology and these waves are everywhere, how do we get away from them if we're on this planet?
Well, we got to get that usage protocols and proximity protocols. But let me jump into like explaining more about how people are, affected, because
Yes.
you're we're into this holistic mental, health world
Yeah.
with your audience, and I want to address that because I think this is the big elephant in the room for me in regards to EMFs affecting cognitive health. And like I just said, it's the number one stressor.
Hmm.
So the first signs of electromagnetic challenges with the body are all cognitive.
Okay.
And so lack of focus, memory, anxiety, fatigue, behavioral challenges are all level one stressors. Lack of sleep, headaches, all cognitive challenges is what we're seeing with EMF toxicity in your environment. Level two would be more non-trauma concussion symptoms of nausea, vomiting, seizures, muscle twitches, rashes on the skin, bloody noses, ringing of the ears, more severe non-trauma head injuries, essentially, like we
Okay.
saw in the Havana cohort,
Okay.
which was the first attack of
Yep.
U.S. Embassy workers on foreign
Yeah.
soil.
Havana syndrome.
Yeah, Havana syndrome. So now, then level three would be the bigs: cancer,
Right.
suicide, diabetes,
Right.
Alzheimer's disease, which is now classified as type 3 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. And then the biggest one we're seeing now is infertility. So it all starts with cognitive, and then it just escalates from there. But every one of those challenges, Dr. David, I've seen over the past dozen years going into people's homes and metering homes and identifying the stressors and then the health of the people in those homes.
Wow. It's so funny because this enlightening conversation is making me think about just kind of a lot of different things and how they might influence us. And one of the things that I've kind of noticed over time is kind of like the rise in anxiety attacks and panic disorder, but also kind of the rise in everybody has ADHD. Nobody can focus. Nobody can concentrate. Nobody can attend to anything for a sustained amount of time. Everybody seems to be distracted all the time. So when you mention cognitive things, that's kind of the first thing that kind of grabs my attention, because if you've got all these waves and all these things that are interfering with how your body naturally functions, you're going to be distracted because you're going to notice this and notice that and notice this and notice that. And there's going to be so many things going on at one time that you may not be able to focus on what's right in front of you.
Without a doubt. And there's more science behind it, like Dr. Martin Paul's work. He talks about the voltage gated calcium channels breaking down, letting positive calcium into a negative cell, causing cell and DNA damage. And
Yeah, that leads to cancer, doesn't it?
yeah, it's an oxidative stress.
Yep.
And then the sleep is affected. It calcifies your pineal gland. You're not connected to the above. It's an endocrine disruptor. You're not getting these deep sleeps. It's messing with your hormone, rejuvenation during sleep. And so all that leads into these cognitive challenges that we see, and then level 2 and 3 and beyond. And they're all directly correlated by it. And the one story I want to tell real quickly is even diabetes. You talked about weight loss.
Right.
It's directly correlated by it. We had a diabetic
Right.
got on an airplane, and it was a child with diabetes. Mom had a smartwatch on, the 12-year-old sitting right next to her, and everyone turns on the Wi-Fi, and her son gets a bloody nose, and the glucose spikes 200 points.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't put anything in his mouth. This is environmental. All this stuff is environmental.
Yeah, no, I totally believe that, and it makes me think about like things like the movie about Aaron Brockovich and other things, documentaries about people who lived near electrical plants and things like that, and having higher rates of cancer and stuff like that. So that leads us to one big question: what do we do about all this, Justin?
You get grounded by nature. Get outside. It's free. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
So a couple other great ideas is purchase some EMF meters. You can measure the stressors. You can see the health of your home.
Really?
Yeah, those are great because the meters, when you plug them in, it'll give you readings of your dirty electricity, like a Stetzer electric meter, or if you just have a milligauss meter that meters the lower electromagnetic fields, then it'll make noises. And the noises that the meters make are the sounds that our nervous system, our fascia hears, that animals hear, plants feel, we feel, but most humans can't hear. And then we can hear the bandwidths when we're underwater, but we just can't hear them on land as well. And then like a wireless meter, a great thing is I get a wireless meter, and I showed my daughter, I'm like, hey, this isn't just this benign cell phone. It's broadcasting, receiving, it's got battery in it. These are millimeter waves, that same spectrum that you use in your microwave to heat your food up. Like this stuff isn't healthy for us. Like we got to develop these usage and proximity protocols. But when you put a wireless meter and you point it like a one directional, when you point it at your phone and your phone starts screaming, or then, excuse me, the meter starts screaming, and then you point it away from your phone and then it quiets down, then you point it back at the phone and it starts screaming off the charts again. It's very eye-opening for youth and people to understand that these waveforms are invisible stressors. So get outside in nature is the best part to heal it, but to identify it, get some meters, tri-field Cornet meters, safe living technology meters. They're all great. And then once you're inside, there's a lot of usage protocols. So turn the electricity off in your bedrooms at night. Like get a timer on your electrical outlet. Have an electrician put on. All your electricity should go off in the bedrooms at night. Put If you have wireless Wi-Fi, then get an outlet timer. Those are $9. This is the most inexpensive way to do it. $9 timer. Plug your Wi-Fi router into it and set it to turn off when you're sleeping. Because what happens is your brain defaults to the bandwidth of those billions of waves per second, and you go into a twilight sleep. So you don't get into those deep restorative sleeps with the Wi-Fi on because it's such a chaotic waveform.
Right.
And you can do that. And so all the wireless technology goes off. Phones are charged outside your room. Get in a circadian rhythm with your environment. Use blue light blockers. If you're having screen time, darken your room so it's full dark out, blackout. We got to get in rhythms with nature. But then the biggest thing for our products and why we've been so successful is because you want to bring nature's resonance into your home. You want to create your bedroom as much as you can at the same resonance as it would be outside in nature. And so that's what our grounding bags do. So EMF Rocks grounding bags, we hand mine crystals. There's about 1 pound of crystals inside the grounding bags. You put one of those grounding bags on your bed, Dr. David, you'll sleep up to 60% deeper.
Wow. I need to get one. I'll be ordering that tonight. Anything to get better sleep. So before we kind of wrap up, you mind if I ask you some specific questions that I've got? And I know some of my audience members have. So, and these are just kind of things that have been in the news that people talk about, right? So, as it relates to EMF and the things that we're talking about and being more in touch with nature and less in touch with technology and all these electromagnetic fields and wavelengths and other things that are disturbing our kind of natural balance and rhythm. What about the wireless ear things so you can use your phone without holding it? What about those? What does the jury say about those? Or the judge say about those?
Avoid at all costs all wearable technology, and then all electric cars. Avoid it, because the wearable tech, the earbuds, it's basically a router in your inner ear. So that's essentially an airway canal directly to your brain. There's no skull blocking it.
True.
So you're getting even way more localized radiation directed to that inner ear. Huge, huge thing to avoid those. Use the corded. You guys, we can hardwire everything. Fiber optics, faster, safer, more reliable. Use the corded headsets, way less EMF waveforms directly in those areas. And that's super important. You can hardwire everything, even your phones. You can hardwire all this stuff. So we got to go back to what we spend so much money on, which is the cabling and the fiber optics, uh, and use that, because they're faster, they're safer security wise, they're way more reliable, and then there's minimal health challenges with it. And then I want to kind of jump into the electric car thing too.
Right. That was where I was going to go next.
Yeah, cool. It's, man, that is the biggest button for me. If you said, Justin, what's your biggest button right now? I'm going to say the electrical car path.
Mm.
And the reason is because we had a colleague test it. He was doing blood tests with professional athletes. He got hired by military special forces. He threw in a variable, guys and girls driving electric cars. It was the single biggest marker change of blood at 18% lower testosterone.
Wow. Wow. That doesn't surprise me though. It really doesn't. Because of a basic principle that I believe in, and that's that when you change one thing, it affects other things. So you can't
Right.
add something new to the system without changing other parts of it. You just can't. Physics and chemistry just don't work that way. If you're making, let me throw out something. If you're making chicken noodle soup, you want to feel better, you're sick and you got the flu or whatever, you make some chicken noodle soup. That's a system that you've created. If you add sugar to that system, it changes it. If you add more salt to it, it changes it. If you add more water, it changes it. If you add more chicken, if you add nutmeg or cinnamon, it's going to change the system. And so adding electric and technological things to this environment that we have is changing the system, and it should not be surprised that the system reacts. What about smart watches? What does the judge say about those?
Well, that's what got me into this whole field. I
Ah.
had one of our professional athletes wearing a smartwatch, and he said, Justin, I have pain in my wrist. I said, where? And he pointed right to where his watch was. And I said, hey, take the radiation off your wrist. And because it was just after that time where the Fitbits were being recalled. And sure enough,
Oh,
he
wow.
takes the watch off and the pain went away.
Wow. What about solar panels?
Yeah, so solar is going to be similar to an electric car. They're storing electricity in these batteries, and they're giving you the level of usage you're requesting. So if all your appliances are on, there's going to be static in those lines. So every home with solar has really high dirty electricity. Same with every electric vehicle. When you're accelerating from 1 to 40 or 40 to 80, or reversing or idling or charging your car, like there's different levels of static that are emitted during all those stages. And solar and electric cars are the two biggest culprits for dirty electricity in a home. Because the solar, because you're storing the battery, and you're giving you're giving your home the level of usage it's requesting, and because you're storing that electricity in there. And then the electric vehicles, when you're charging it in your home, if you had a healthy home, it blows out the entire electrical grid of your home.
Wow. What about batteries?
Well, the batteries, like a car battery, even a hybrid, it's too big. The normal combustion engine cars, they don't have giant batteries. I mean, and they're small enough to where our bodies aren't really disrupted as much by it. The newer cars, they're all culprits for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and cellular and GPS. Like all the new cars, they need to just stop all this, wireless signals in it. It's too much for our body. They're all cooking people, but the electric car is the number one stressor because you're sitting on that massive battery.
What about microwaves?
Well, it's similar. You guys, these wireless spectrum, look at it. The 5G is the similar bandwidth of
Right.
millimeter waves. They're
Right.
millimeter waves. So
Right.
that's directed energy weapons. That's microwaves, ovens. It's the same bandwidth that oscillates, the food, the structure of the food to warm the temperature up. Our government set procedural levels in 1996 of what's ionizing versus non-ionizing. So if something's ionizing, it creates a thermal effect. It's not okay for the body, but if it's not ionizing, it is okay. Well, these microwaves, same bandwidth of 5G and wireless spectrum, but it's in a contained area. Those will warm your cells up. But we know from Dr. Martin Paul's work that even low level radiation, that vibration affects our body. So we haven't updated the 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 proximity protocols because the government's like, there's so many different ways that our bodies bend and break. So they're leaning in, they're digging their heels in on this 300 gigahertz. And and we're already at 5G and it's already messing up a lot of people. So it's a lot more challenging to live now in this day and age than it was, 50 years ago with way less, and then 150 years ago with no wireless signals in our air other than cosmic ones.
And what about laptops and desktop computers?
Well, again, hardwire. So I'm the living, breathing ambassador of getting grounded by nature and developing usage protocols with technology.
Okay.
We're on a cell phone now, so obviously that's bandwidth, and I got to plug it in so I don't lose charge on you because I have an older phone. But technically, I could hardwire my phone too. But my computer's hardwired. Other than my phone, I don't have any wireless signals in my immediate environment. And
Mm.
I have a grounding bag I have a mini grounding bag in my pocket that I carry with me. I have a full size grounding bag on my desk, and then obviously our office we do all fulfillment out of here. So there's a lot of protection in my facility. But even though I've hardwired everything with these computers, so go back to hardwiring and then the screen, again, the circadian rhythm with the screens. I'm by a window, so I get lots of natural light throughout the day. I don't have fluorescent lighting above me using incandescent lights, and get into the rhythm with the lighting as well.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Oh my God. I've learned so much today. This has truly been an education for me and for everyone who's listening today because technology keeps increasing more and more. I mean, it's like the fastest growing thing. You hear about some new AI thing every day or some new, cellular technology or some new energy format or, those kind of things all the time. And, at the same time, we seem to be more and more afflicted by negative environmental factors and disease than ever before. So this has been a huge education. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. If before you tell us about where people can find you, where they can get your products and services and things like that, can you tell us a little bit or revisit the name of your books that people can purchase?
Thanks, Dr. David. Athleticism, whole body plus whole brain equals performance. And you can find it on athleticism.com and find all of our curated health products. We have MCT oil, we have amazing minerals, toothpaste, all of our EMF products. We have incredible Campo Beauty essential oils that are great for cognitive health, that help you sleep or detox or relax, give you energy. And the Sun stories in there and every ethos are stunning So all of our products are on athleticism.com, then emfrocks.com. You could find our Grounded by Nature book as well.
Awesome. Awesome. That is terrific. I will definitely be checking that out and getting some of your grounding products and trying them out, and also getting your books as well. If there is one core principle or thing or insight or piece of knowledge that you could leave me and listeners with today about these topics, what would it be, Justin?
Yeah, Dr. David, it's really simple. For everyone wanting a fresh start, just get a fresh start to heal. It's really tough to heal when you're decharged and you lose your polarity. So the number one most important thing is to get outside into nature and get grounded by nature, because it's free. And so touch a tree, hug a tree, go barefoot, have a picnic, put your feet into bodies of water, and or submerge your whole body into it, whatever's comfortable for you, but get out into nature. It's free. And when you're not out in nature, use our grounding bags in your environment, in your home, and tap on them. Like, that'll recharge your body battery and give you a fighting chance to be able to heal. If you have cognitive challenges, put the black bag on your lap, tap on it with one hand, and the other hand cover your eyes and your teeth and your upper chest, and then your stomach area, and then your forehead. Like, you'll feel your energy 10x. You'll feel the weight of your shoulders being lifted, and the environment and our energy field, if it's stuck full of stuff, it messes with the pressure in the body, and so we feel just pressure in the head or all these other areas. And so fascia maneuvers from Human Garage would be another one that I would look at. It's an incredible self-healing program that you could do at home, but couple those together and you're going to see your life transform instantly.
Awesome. Hey, love it. Hey, thank you so much for being a guest today. Again, guys, definitely go check out athleticism. Check out athleticism.com, Justin Franson's website. Check out emfrocks.com. Definitely check out his books and everything, and get informed, regardless of what your current thoughts are about technology and the world that we live in. It is changing, and in a lot of ways, the environment, or what we're creating, I shouldn't just say the environment that we're creating doesn't match our DNA and where we came from and our evolution. So if you don't do anything else, definitely get informed. And you can definitely do that from checking out Justin and his work. Hey, thank you so much again, Justin. I truly appreciate you enlightening us about these topics today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Dr. David, for having me on.
And with that, guys, definitely do something different, learn something new about the environment, understand that when you have trouble sleeping and you have trouble focusing, it's not just coming out of nowhere. Don't blame yourself. Find out where it's coming from. Tap into some of the things that Justin is talking about, and learn and get informed about your environment. With that, I'm going to close out this episode of Fresh Start with Dr. David. Definitely stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks so much, Justin. It was a pleasure having you here today. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.